Okay. Hello, hello, hello. Hello, hello, hello. There you go.
Hello, guys. Hello,
Hello.
hello.
Hey, what's up, Michael? How you doing, man?
Good, good, good. How are you? How are you? Can you hear me okay?
I Yeah, let me just make Yeah, I can hear you. Yeah,
Okay. Yeah. Good, good, good. How are you?
I'm good. Hey, it's Sunday, so I guess getting ready for work tomorrow, but otherwise I'm good. What about yourself?
Good. It's a beautiful day out. Enjoying the day, enjoying the weather. Very excited. Very excited about this interview and things like that.
Yeah, for sure. Likewise, likewise.
Anyway, I'm ready to get started if you are.
Let's do it.
So, so what this is for those who are tuning in, this is K-State Culturally. This is actually the last installment of this series, and it's the protest and advocacy installment. Today we have one of our alumni, BSU presidents, Marcus Bragg, who was the president in 2014. And today we're just going to be discussing um, his journey through K-State BSU, how that relate to protest and advocacy, and just things that we hope that the future BSU members can take away from this and continue the great tradition that we have at K-State BSU. But first, can you tell the audience a little bit more about yourself? Like, what are you doing? Maybe your involvement at K-State, the years you graduated, stuff like that.
Yeah, sure. Hey, everybody. Um, I guess I can start like give everything from the beginning. So, Marcus Bragg. I went to Kansas State, graduated 2014. I got a MIS degree in the College of Business. I'm from Moline, Illinois, but I moved to Kansas City during high school, and so I went to Sumner Academy. For those of you who may be from Wyandotte County, and yeah, started K State in 2009, and I think I kind of did the whole shebang. Like I was in the MAPS program, like a lot of people might be familiar with. Um, I got to K State, and so I got very active in BSU thanks to all the great welcome programs and advocacy programs they had out there, like for new freshmen and things. I guess during my time at K State, I think I did a lot. I was a part of some really great organizations that kind of helped me grow and still help me out to this day. I was a part of Alpha Phi Alpha fraternity, um, BSU, different multicultural groups in the College of Business. Um, so yeah, my time at K State was great, but honestly, I was telling Michael earlier when we kind of talked and did our prep, that BSU was one of the main reasons I feel at home and why I really stay affiliated to K State. So I'm just really glad to be here and really glad to have this discussion.
And thank you, because I love that you ended with that. Like BSU is one of the reasons that you feel at home, because though we all have different like journeys and how we discover BSU or like our involvement in BSU, we all have that same story of how BSU was where we found our closest friends, where
Yeah,
we felt safe, where we had um, like you said, at home.
yeah,
And and so for me, can you talk about how that home kind of curated um like the confidence, the person that you are today, with the prestige that comes with BSU, right? Like having to the rigor that comes with, being a
yeah,
part
yeah, yeah.
of an exec board that comes with it and how it curates you. Can you talk about like how BSU helped create the person, the Marcus that we see today?
Yeah. I think I owe a lot of who I am and the skills that I have. And, me and one of my close friends, Anita, we always say that we feel like when we walk into a new setting at work, like we always feel like, especially like in our younger years, like fresh out of college, that I feel I was so much more prepared. And I don't know if it's anything necessarily that was innate within me, but I think these are skills that I developed when I was at K State. And a lot of those are a result of BSU. A lot of other, 20-year-olds or young college students don't get the chance to present in front of other people or be a part of executive board meetings every week where you have deliverables of things that you need to prepare. And like, you are bringing material and you're responsible for certain items every single week, or you are a part of a Big 12 conference delegate committee where you branch out into different committees and you're responsible for different aspects of ensuring that, the Big 12 group accomplishes this set of goals. And so, I mean, I probably ran through that pretty quickly, but I mean, BSU is one of the major reasons I ascribe to being who I am today and having a lot of the skills that I have today. And I definitely don't think I would be where I am, or at least maybe it would have taken me a couple years. I would be a little more behind to where I am had I not had some of those experiences during my time at BSU at K-State.
I 100% agree with that. Like, I feel like I've always had like some raw talents, like coming from high school and coming from things, right? Like,
Sure.
having the ability to speak, right? But like having the ability to have a great work ethic, or, like having the ability to accomplish these things. But BSU is what kind of gave me that fine tone of like, all right, this is great.
Yeah.
Exactly. But this is what greatness looks like, right? Like, and these are opportunities to help, curate that and like sharpen that, and things like that. So I love that, because BSU has only, helped curate and sharpen, my skills, as a member, things like that.
But I think also it's easy to be a big fish in a little pond sometimes. Like, you come from your high school and hey, you have good speaking skills, or you're good at this and that, and you think, oh, I've got it all. But then you get to BSU and it's like, oh, there are a lot of other Black students who are just as good at these things as you are, and so you're not quite as tight as you think you are. And so it just helps you fine tune and, like you said, refine those skills some more. So I mean, definitely, I don't take that for granted.
100%. So let's talk about a little bit of like your protest and advocacy when you was at K-State. So we all know, like, during that time was huge as far as like being Black in general in the world. That was around the time of Michael Brown and Trayvon, the killings, the lynchings of Michael Brown, Trayvon Martin. It's like, so the climate in general was just, I was graduating high school, so it was different for me. So can you talk about what it was like, one, as a student going through that?
I'm just kidding.
Well, it was it was just different. It was different. I'm from Memphis, Tennessee, so I was around Black people, right? Like, I was around other people who felt that, versus coming to K-State, where that's a totally different experience. And so I would love if you could like speak to what that was like as a student, and then also maybe some of the programs, advocacy or protests, or things that may have happened in response of.
I feel like that was a very interesting time. And I think maybe the context I remember, I was 19, 20, 21 at the time, but I remember coming to K-State, they were kind of starting some big diversity programs, maybe from what I heard from people who were there before me 5, 10 years before, that a lot of the diversity programs that I was brought into and that I enrolled in were not there, when they were students. So they were really proud of the programs that were there. But, I was one of the first generations to kind of experience a lot of those things. Like, for instance, the MAPS program, which brought multicultural students from all different areas of Kansas and even, other states to K-State, like the summer before freshman year started, just to give you like a way to acclimate to campus and take a few classes and things like that. But, I think it also was a time where, every diversity was a big word. It's one of these exciting words, that everybody said and threw out every chance they got. But it was like, it really was oftentimes in word more so than in deed. Like you mentioned, I mean, that was around 2012, 2013. That was when the Trayvon Martin and the Michael Brown incidents took place. And I guess what I remember most from my time there, like being in class, was, of course, I'm sure it's the same today, but like, you're one of few students of color, Black students in class. You might be the only one oftentimes, or just one of 3 people. I remember being in, freshman year, being required to take like English 1 or English 2, whatever it was, and you're reading, I forgot even who the author was at this time, but it's discussing racism and systemic racism and inequality, and Black kids in your class like telling you that the experiences you're describing, because they of course always point to the Black kid in the room like, hey, please validate this article that we read. And all the white students in class are like, no, this doesn't happen. And it's like, gaslighting, which is a word we throw around all the time today, but that's exactly what it was. I remember being in diversity classes, like in leadership studies, and, the class was, I don't know, introduction to diversity and understanding racism and things. And so you're in there with a bunch of students, I guess, who probably didn't want to be there, but were forced to take it, and they're arguing with you. And so I feel like, I had good experiences at K-State, but I think that time at K-State, it always felt like us versus them, or us always having to like explain why we were there, or explain why we felt that we had to advocate for the things that we did, because everything was a fight. Nothing really came easy. For every issue that we discussed, every proposal that we made, there always were a bunch of detractors and people who disagreed and said, oh, you're race baiting, you're being reverse racist and things. So maybe things, I don't know, maybe I would ask you, are things the same as they were for me? But I mean, it just seems based on the country and the climate and the election we just had, maybe they are.
Well, definitely when I graduated, we were still fighting a lot of the same fights. I mean, the multicultural student center would be built, like the ribbon cutting ceremony was on the 20th. So we are just now seeing some of the things that we've been fighting for come to fruition. Right. So you was telling me, you didn't tell me all the story, but you was telling me about like how you had to fight for the Black faculty at K-State. Can you share a little bit more about this story? Because honestly, I'm very eager. I'm like excited because I didn't get out the tea.
the tea. That was it was a crazy time. I mean, I remember the Black student community, all the BSU members at the time, we were all very riled up. It was the hot topic at the time, really, and for good reason. So I guess the timeline I recall is they were reducing departments. It was in the College of Arts and Sciences, and throughout my entire time at K-State, and I'm sure way before me, Black students were saying, hey, you're bringing all of us here, and all we have is just 90% white students around us, and you have 95%, 98% white faculty. We have no faculty who represent us, who look like us. We feel like we can't relate to these faculty. And for as long as I was there, people were complaining, hey, there is not enough Black faculty, or at least faculty of color at K-State. And so I forgot exactly how we were notified, but the College of Arts and Sciences were doing some reduction in some way, and they decided to cut 3 Black faculty who were in one of the departments in Arts and Sciences. And I guess 3 don't sound like that big of a number, but when there's only 10 or 20 at K-State, 3 is quite a bit percent. And
especially in Arts and Sciences, where all the Black people
exactly, where all the Black students are enrolled, right? So it kind of set off this big thing. I remember there were letters to the editor that we wrote, and I think we wrote 1 or 2, and maybe they didn't get much response. But by the time we wrote the second or the third letter, I mean, information started really circulating the campus, and like it became something that we began discussing and really debating with the provost and the administration and even the president at the time. So it culminated into a big BSU meeting where there was a panel of us. I wasn't the BSU president at the time. It was Anita Easterwood. She was the year before me, but there were other executive board members, myself, Anita on the panel. And on the other side of the room, there was the provost, there was the president. And in the audience, there was really just concerned members of the campus, a lot of BSU members, a lot of Black faculty, or the few that were there, and just others, students of color who were there, just trying to really hold the administration, the provost, the president to task, and like to really call them out on the things that were happening. And all the reasons they gave us for why, this huge percentage is 3 people, but still a large percentage of Black faculty was being cut all in one go. It was really probably one of the most, I guess I can't think of the right word, but it really woke me up. One of the big awakenings for me, I think, in terms of my racial understanding and just wanting to always like advocate for myself and my people and different groups, because, I think if you don't hold them to task, if you don't call them out on what they're doing, they definitely will kind of just do whatever. And I think we're always the people who suffer from that. But after that took place, I think we proved our point. We didn't change everything, of course. Everything did not become gravy after that. But I think that was one of the big starting points for the Multicultural Student Center. In addition to calling out, hey, Black faculty, there are not enough faculty of color at K-State. But also we said, hey, that's number one, but there are a lot of other issues too. I mean, we don't have a space on campus. We come to the student union and we're relegated to this tiny little room, the MSO room in the student union, which I think has gotten a little bigger maybe for recent students. But back then it was this little, it wasn't a big office. So
I
what do you
mean,
feel
it's
like you
still
had to
Clark's
say?
office. It's still Clark's office
Okay.
with, it's Clark's, let's be honest, it's Clark's office
Okay.
with a conference table.
Okay. So it's still the same exact room. Is what it sounds
Yeah.
like to me. Okay. No, I mean, that was, we raised a bunch of issues, a bunch of concerns, a bunch of very relevant, legitimate concerns. Some of them, I think were heard. Others, maybe they told us that they heard them, but maybe no action was taken. But that was probably the biggest protest, the biggest advocating I did in my time at K-State, because we were very concerned, very upset at that time.
Ooh. Thank you.
Yeah,
With
it was
that, you
something
said
else.
something about, yeah, that's wild. Because I mean, well, we was dealing with different stuff. It just felt like, I don't know. It's just we was fighting. A lot of times we was fighting to like add more positions to be created for Black faculty of color, or not just
Okay.
Black faculty, Black faculty and faculty of color, and not just faculty, but also like administrative positions,
Right.
and things like that. But
Well, I
when
think
you were
we talked
speaking
about.
earlier, you talked about,
Well, I was going to say,
no,
you and
continue.
I
What you
talked
saying?
about, we talked about SGA earlier. I mean, in my time at,
Hmm.
K-State, SGA was so white, and, you get, one or two Black students on there, and they feel like, oh, progress and diversity and things. But like, that's another form of protest and advocacy. It's like, one or two Black students on this student governing association is not progress. I mean, it still feels like, at least in my time at K-State, that they would have, these one or two little token spaces carved out for people of color. And then it was like, all right, that's for y'all. Like, we gave that to you. Here's your cookie. But then let's resume
Hmm.
the scheduled program. Um, yeah.
100%, and because it feels like at every like your whole case study experience, you're like you said protesting. Like we talked about protesting and what that means, I guess, to us earlier. And one of the things that you said was just like being yourself, right, in spaces. That's an act of protesting. And like you're saying, like being an SGA and like every realm of our student involvement kind of felt like an act of protesting.
Oh, yeah.
Being a student of us, like being in SGA, like you said, and then the different committees in SGA, and then the different committees on campus that they want you to sit on to
Right.
bring this new diversity person in or this new whatever.
And
And
you're
then
always the
for
only one.
always the only one. And then even and then yeah, so across campus, like you said, it seems like um, we're always protesting to prove our existence, to prove um, you know that BSU, not just BSU, but like ourselves deserve to be a student here at K State. Um,
No, I totally
yeah.
agree. And, I
So
look
move
back
it.
on, I look back on some of that. I mean, I was on an SGA committee or two, and I remember always feeling like I had to prove myself, that I belonged there, and that I could, maybe compete is not the word, but that I could hold my own against the white kids, and that I belonged to be there, and that it wasn't only for affirmative action or because I was involved in BSU and this is BSU space, and so Marcus is here because he's in BSU, but feeling like I truly belonged. And I think, I mean, as I've gotten older, I realized I'm not going to compete or perform for anybody. But I think it's, I just would like to tell people who are watching, like maybe who still go to K-State, like you don't have to prove yourself. You don't have to feel like you're in competition. You belong because you're there, and you've had to overcome so many obstacles, probably a whole lot more than maybe others were in that room. And so I think maybe it's easier to say, and maybe it's in everybody's journey. They need to figure it out for themselves, but you definitely belong.
100%. Um, Thank you, and I appreciate like you saying that because for a lot of members and for a lot of members like me, it took a while for me to find my belonging, even in spaces like BSU. And being a openly Black queer man in the BSU space, I had a certain amount of anxiety even entering the Black Student Union, right? Being nervous about how I would be perceived, being nervous about will people allow me to will they hinder my involvement as a new student, and then like you said, like and continue to show up because I couldn't show up to like the different, white queer spaces because they wouldn't fully understand me within myself. So I really appreciate you saying that.
No, for sure.
Can
Yeah.
you talk about like on a lighter note, can you talk about like your favorite BSU memories or one of your favorite BSU traditions or something that you have done, like, well, not done, but just your favorite BSU memory?
Yeah. I think I have two. Um, my first is going to Big 12 conferences. I think Big 12 was number one, like, you're 18, 19 years old. I don't know about anybody else, but at that age, I had not traveled that many places. I think my first Big 12 conference was to go to Austin, Texas. After that, I went to Mizzou. I think I went to one other college, but I think Big 12 conferences, it's so nice to meet like other Black college students. It's so nice to realize that, there are only so many of us coming from K-State, but there are hundreds across the country who are dealing with the same issues on campus, confronting the same issues in college. You're not alone. But like you said, on a lighter note, like we have fun, like, of course we
Yeah.
were in like meetings and kicking in, and I'm gonna leave the extra stuff to players to myself. People who know me who are watching this know what I'm about to get at. But I mean, yeah, like we're in meetings all day, we're planning, we're like really working. That's the reason that we're there. But like at night, we were not in the room studying. We were kicking it amongst ourselves
Getting to
because
know each other.
getting to know each other, exactly. Facilitating conversation. And like those are
Yeah.
not experiences that you can have at K-State because I mean there are so few Black students. So it was nice to go to, a Big 12 conference and be around a lot of Black college students for once. So that's probably my maybe my number one memory with BSU at K-State. But I would say my second, I thought about it after we talked earlier. My second, I think, is all the BSU activities we did for homecoming.
Hmm.
I was talking to you earlier. I was saying, hey, I would never come back for K-State homecoming. Like that's not my thing. If it's not about BSU, if it's not about Alpha, I probably would not be back at K-State. But homecoming, I always felt that we were excluded, but BSU we made ourselves known there. Like we are a group here. We are a major group here. We are one of the hardest working, most effective groups here. And, even though I feel like these events are not tailored for us, we are going to show out. And we won a lot of those activities. Stuff that I might consider corny now, like painting windows in the Ville and stuff like that. Like it was fun
Yeah.
because we did it together, and it felt like we were advocating for ourselves. Like you said earlier, like I feel like even just showing up in that space, not picketing, not doing anything necessarily advocating for ourselves, but just being there is a form of protest. It's a form of saying, hey, we are here. You cannot ignore us. We deserve all the accolades that others get. And so, yeah, those were fun to me. I look back on those with really fond memories.
That's dope because one of my Big 12 is definitely one of my favorite memories too, like
Oh
in
yeah.
general, just like the whole concept. Because, and I can tell you why, and it's because one, honestly, Big 12 taught me how to be a better at like in my blackness and be better in my involvement at K-State.
Oh yeah.
And the reason why is because, like at K-State, like we're limited in the blackness that we see, the blackness that we project, the blackness that we consume, the blackness that we give off because of our limited, quantity that we have.
Right.
But Big 12 really opened my eyes to like the diversity within our culture, literally, and like
Oh
people
yeah.
like me, like because
Yeah.
oftentimes, like because even within BSU, it's not that diverse. Like you might have a bunch of people from the same demographic or the same like city or the same whatever, so it's easy to kind of fall in that one way of group thought. But going to Big 12, when I saw other Black queer men like with
Yeah.
the same ambition and the same drive and the same authority over their bodies and autonomy over their bodies and like space, and you saying like showing up like unapologetically themselves, protesting every day confidently, they gave
Yeah.
me, the drive to continue to go back to K-State and drive because of my homeboy at Mizzou or my homeboy at UT Austin or like
Yeah.
because when we got there we was able to unify within not just like as a group but as intersectional groups within our own blackness.
Yeah.
When we was eating together or convening together or talking together or doing whatever it was, even planning together, we was able to have those conversations. Like Black women was able to get together and be like, "Oh, I can't believe these men treat me this way or talk this way or whatever when we are in a meeting or such and such this. Black queer men get together and be able to talk about our unique experiences within BSU and all the way around, because we're the only ones that have those unique experiences. And so for a lot of us, it gave us that drive. And so like I love that you brought up Big 12, because like just you holistically, like it helps the Black student.
No, I think yeah, I agree with everything you just said. I mean, I think Big 12 opens your mind. You see so many more people from so many different areas, and yeah, I mean, even at K-State, you can maybe be exposed to only one or a few different types of people, or a few different types of Black people. But you know, you look at maybe other colleges around the country, and they just come from different places, and so you're exposed. But I mean, I also agree with everything else you just said about different intersections within the Black community. I mean, I think, I don't know if it's BSU's issue, but I mean, the Black community at large could do a whole lot better, a whole lot better.
The country, everybody.
Yeah, I mean, I'm gay as well. Black women also express these issues. You know, like, hey, it feels like maybe only straight Black men are given their credit, or you know, always touted as maybe the premier, the upper echelon of the Black community. But that's not everyone. You know, also a lot of Black people come from poorer spaces. They don't have the same privileges that, let me not speak for anybody else, that I had. And so, you know, you come from different backgrounds and are not quite as prepared for college. And there's definitely a big divide maybe in educated Black people versus non-educated Black people. So, I mean, all these different things maybe affect our experiences in the Black community, and they all should be addressed. Totally.
100%. And that's why I love Big 12 so much. And like, I just saw Clark shout out that Big 12 is going to be at K-State in 2022. So that's even more exciting. Yes, even more exciting, because now we get to shake up K-State. And again, so we get to shake it up, and all these students are going to, because K-State always do it the best. Always do it the best. Anytime we have anything at K-State, we're going to do it the best.
Well, I was going to say, like, yeah, of course, going to Big 12 and like seeing all the other students like helps to raise your awareness. But I don't think it's any mistake that K-State, at least when I was there, I don't know what y'all were doing, you know, in your day, but when I was there, we won every year. There was
we're still winning. Like it's still going. Like we still, you know, carrying the tradition. Yeah. You know, so we didn't stop. Like, that didn't stop with us.
Okay, good. All right, I'm glad. I had to call you out.
Yeah, no. That didn't stop with us. You know, we didn't drop no balls. So can we talk about like, so, you know, things were so tumultuous, always tumultuous at K-State. But can you talk about ways that you took care of yourself, specifically as a Black man in the positions that you was in, right? Like you didn't really have time for yourself. At least I don't remember having time for myself. So can you like give some tips or some little something that like worked for you?
Yeah, I mean, I think there probably are healthier ways I could have, you know, spent my my personal time. But I mean, I think it's really easy to get maybe super focused on the work that you're doing as a student, and as a Black student, really advocating for the Black community. And I don't for a second regret any of the organizations I was involved in or any of the work that I did. But yeah, I think I think it is really important to make time for yourself. You know, one thing I look back on and I regret is that, hey, I never studied abroad, because I always felt like I had to be a part of this, or I was in BSU, or I was really active in my fraternity, or I was helping out with these other groups and organizations. And so I always felt like I can't take a semester off, or I even just never even really considered the possibility of doing something like studying abroad, even though that there were scholarships out there. And for students of color, I think there were even more scholarships that really weren't taken advantage of. So there are some things I look back on like, hey, if I could do college again, I would still love to do these things, but also there are some other things that I didn't take part in. But I mean, also, I think it's, you know, I think you definitely should advocate for yourself. You should work for yourself and work to better the place for your community. But also, I think you should just take time for yourself. You know, make sure, like, number one, I mean, you're there to get good grades, you're there to graduate. And I think, you know, too many students of color like come to K-State and probably other Big 12 and other colleges in general and never finish. I don't think that's the fault of being involved in organizations, but it's like, that's your first priority. You know, that should always be your first priority. Like, take care of yourself. Like, I think about how much student debt I took out going to college. I'm sure maybe you're in the same boat. Other people, It's like, if you're leaving K-State with $40,000, $50,000, $60,000 worth of debt, you should at least come out of there with a degree and hopefully chances at a good position, internship, and things like that. So, I mean, I think it's always very important, you know, despite all the other issues that are going on, and like you said, the tumultuous environment, always take time for yourself. because you'll graduate K-State and you helped all these people, but then you might be not in the best position yourself, and that's not fair to you. So
I love that advice because, like you mentioned about studying abroad, and so like self-care is not necessarily, like taking a bath and like that
right,
physical form of
lighting some
self-care, but
candles.
it's exactly, having a glass of wine or whatever you're doing, but like
Hmm.
it's also taking care of future you, and like you say, like one of your regrets is not studying abroad, and I think one of my regrets is not studying abroad for a semester. Like I did do some studying abroad opportunities, but like
Oh,
there's
really?
also, yeah, I did a couple things, international service teams, and like another thing. But I always wanted to study abroad like a whole semester, and I
Right.
didn't do that. And so self care, and that's why I think it's great advice because self care also goes into like investing in future you. And a lot of us student leaders, we get so invested in like present self, which present self is all involved in like saving K State or saving the Black community or like helping the Black community and different things like that. And we oftentimes can lose focus of looking for those internships or like following or pursuing our passions outside of,
Right.
like our work now and our schoolwork that we assume that our degree is just going to land us into our, passionate career.
Yeah. But I think it's funny we both said studying abroad. I mean, uh, I've been reading a lot of James Baldwin the last few months, and James Baldwin left the United States and went to France and explored Europe. And if it's not perfect over there, and there are races over there too, but he was like, "This is not,
Right.
how it is everywhere. This is not how Black people should live everywhere and how they should feel everywhere. There are other places that you can go, and get a different experience and have a better experience." So I mean, if James Baldwin did it, I think we should all do it.
100%. Just a little taste. Just a little
Right.
bit.
A little bit. A little bit.
So, what, and this is a random question. So, can you share like some of the best or worst or both advice that someone has ever given you? The best or worst advice that someone has ever given you while you was in college or just advice in general?
You put me on
Because
the
that might
spot.
not be.
You didn't prep me for this question earlier.
Yeah, I just thought about
You
this
did
one.
not. Okay.
I go first. I thought
Okay. Yeah.
about
Go
this, so
ahead.
I
Go
go.
ahead.
So I would go for this is in college or high school or whatever. It would be anybody that told me not to pursue something that I was passionate about because of, like simple reasons, right? Like money or effort or something like that. Just not pursuing my passions for something not of substance. Um, no matter what. Like, and I think quarantine or this COVID-19 epidemic pandemic has really made me think more about that. Because it really just made a lot of people drop everything and try things that they always want to do. So many of my friends, quit their job and moved across the country, or moved to the city that they wanted to go to, or quit their job and actually started their business that they always wanted to, or moved with their roommate or with their family member, or these things. Like they took those leaps of faith, and they all worked out. And
Yeah.
so I think for me, the greatest advice, I mean, the worst advice, I guess, was not to pursue my passions for, these small reasons.
Yeah. I I like that. I might kind of piggyback and tweak it just a little bit. So I think also you should take leaps of faith. I'm very big on,
Hmm.
maybe in the job market I might be described as a job hopper. I just got a new job. I started on Monday. I graduated college in 2014. I'm on my fifth job. Okay. And some people look on that unfavorably. They say that's not good. I say these companies will lay you off in a minute. They will not pay you your worth in a minute. I think for maybe people who just graduated K State, people who are at K State but nearing graduation, I think you should always, um, know your worth, and you should stay on the job market and be open to leaving. Don't just stay at a company because you are comfortable there, because you feel like whatever. Of course, don't be ridiculous. Don't get a new job every 2 months. I'm not advocating that at all. But it's like, if you've been somewhere and you feel like you're underpaid and you've looked at the market and you see, hey, I'm underpaid, and you go to your management and they are not willing to do anything about that, you will be at that company 10 years before you get the amount of money that you asked for. You should leave. And if you could find another job that pays you the money that you feel you deserve, you should go work there. I just left the company One, because I didn't think the culture was great and it wasn't great for my career, but they laid off like 20, 30 people who had been there for 20, 30 years. And a lot of those people felt so upset and disgusted with the company. I just feel like, these companies do not care about you. We live in a capitalistic society. Of course, like I said, don't be ridiculous with it. But I mean, if you feel like you are not getting what you deserve, maybe in any aspect of your life, I think you should be open to leaving and searching for something new and not selling for less than what you're worth. So that's what I would say. That's my best advice. It's done me very
No,
well, I think.
I love that advice. And speaking of career, can we talk about like how the K-State BSU or your experience in protest and advocacy has like shaped you to have that type of like career confidence? Because I know like
Yeah.
a lot of people won't have that confidence. So I guess can you talk to the traits or the characteristics that BSU kind of gave you to like, because I mean
Yeah.
we are in college and hopefully it's all career readiness, right? And so you're
Right.
joining these organizations with 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 intention to get skills that can help
Of
you
course.
in the workforce or whatever your future is. So can you speak to, like I said before, like just ways that your experiences help you thrive and be confident and fight for your worth with these companies?
Yeah, man, I think I gained a lot of that at K-State. And of course, I think I developed more like as I got more into the workforce and had more years of experience. But I mean, at K-State, if you're always the one and only in your class. I mean, I feel like you already have skills within you. That means like I can thrive on my own. I'm not dependent on others. I'm used to being the outcast, not necessarily fitting in. And, in order to be myself, I think all that's already within us. I think, in BSU, like I said, the experience I had with when we were fighting for the Black faculty and the Multicultural Student Center and things like, we were 21 at the time and we were very oppositionally opposed to the president, the provost, administration, like people who were 40, 50 years old. Like a lot of times I had feelings of feeling like I was not, I was a kid and I had no place like arguing with these people,
Hmm.
like in a public setting, especially. But I mean, we did, and we fought for what was right. And I think if you are fighting for what's right, whether it's in your job and you feel like you're underpaid or you're not being given the responsibilities or the opportunities that you deserve, or maybe not a promotion that you deserve, maybe somebody was chosen over you, or at K-State you feel like you're a Black student and you are not being treated the way you deserve. I think when you're right, and you should have no qualms. You should have no hesitation about, fighting for your worth. Maybe that's where the confidence come from. Like if you're being trifling, if you are not in the right place, maybe you should not have the confidence to be doing
Yeah,
these things. But if you are, in the right place, if you're fighting for what's right, whether it's for yourself or for someone else, I think you should totally not hesitate. You should have the confidence to, raise your voice and say something.
100%. Thank you. So we are swiftly approaching 1 hour.
Are we?
So yeah, yeah, it's already 4:40. Um, yeah, so we're swiftly approaching 1 hour. So I'm gonna do like the last question isk, and then we'll see where it goes. So what is your hope? I mean, we talked a lot about what you did, when you were a member of BSU, things that I did and like the climb and different things like that. But what is your hope for the future of BSU? And I can start like, yeah, what is your hope with the future of BSU, with the things that, the legacy that you left at K-State, and things like that? What is your hope or your future for K-State Black Student Union?
That's a good question. Let's see. I should have been prepared for that, but I don't think I am. So I might have to talk off the cuff. I mean, I hope BSU maybe one day doesn't have to fight for common sense things that Black students deserve. Like additional funding for, BSUs and multicultural groups when, a lot of these other white organizations, they have funding because they've been at K-State for so long. And I feel like a lot of times BSU and other multicultural student organizations have to fight for things that are very basic that everybody else already
Hmm.
has. And when we fight for them, we're looked at as if we're crazy and that we're asking for the sun, the moon, and the stars, when it's like these are very basic things that everybody else already has and we should also have. So I guess, that's probably my first hope. I mean, the second one is not necessarily for BSU, but I mean, I think free college education should be a form of reparations for Black people. I mean, if there are
Same.
many other things that probably should be lumped in that as well. But I mean, black students should not have to pay for college, especially to a state school like the K-State. I mean, think about all the debt, all the black students leave college with crippling forms of debt. And I know everybody does, but look at all the stats. I mean, black students take out more debt than anybody else. I had a close friend in college who came from a family, they didn't have much money. He would get a refund check every year and send it back home. So his mom and family had, these are not things that other students have to worry about. And I guess my hope is for BSU members and other black students at K-State and everywhere else that one day we don't have to do that type of stuff. I mean, I think I was fortunate and privileged not to have to do that, but so many black students did. And when I was made aware of that, it just blew my mind. I mean, an equal playing field, all these things, black students, it's not fair. Black students come to college and have to like bear the weight of so many additional burdens that other groups don't have to deal with. And one day, maybe I'm dreaming, maybe I'm too optimistic and this is just a pipe dream, but hopefully one day these things go away.
Yeah.
What about you? I'm kind of curious what your answer is.
That's a good question. I mean, okay, so since you went that way with it, I guess I go the opposite way. I go more internal, what I can hope the organization can do for this, like continue to do for its members. Because I really agree with all of that. Like I do think Black students have to just go the extra mile to prove our existence in a classroom. Like you said, like one of the first things you said was being in a classroom, in American Excellence Study classroom, debating with whatever classroom, debating
your existence,
microaggressions, right? Debating things that happen to you on your way to class.
Yeah.
So it's like stuff like that we shouldn't have to argue. So I guess what I hope for the legacy of K-State is I hope that it already does this, but I hope it continues to be a place for Black students, all Black students, to have to create like what it did for us, like right, that can create that intersectional leadership and create all create and develop, all aspects of us, right, professionally, socially, emotionally, because so much of us, we rely on these things already, but they just continue to be those things for a lot of us. Because I know when I was there, a lot of students didn't feel comfortable at BSU just because of some of the, just some of the members or maybe some of the environment that it may be. So like I say, I just hope it continues to grow in a way that is just this holistically healing for all of our students. Not just our super involved students or our students that want to be, they're super ambitious, but just a place for any student that just want to, just be, they can come there and get whatever type of healing that they need, just like whether it's, emotionally supported or just being around the Black people in general, which oftentimes just energized me and gave me the love I needed to get me through the week or the day or whatever that they may do.
I totally agree.
So I do want to tell that we're running low on time.
Okay.
Is there anything that you would like to say? Everybody's saying that you can sing. They can't. They keep talking about that in the chat. I would be remiss if I just didn't mention. I'd be remiss if I didn't mention it. I'm not gonna actually do anything, but I would be remiss if I didn't mention the things that people was talking about. You're singing. They say you're always singing. They say you're always singing. I should appreciate it.
I can't wait to log in and see, who was actually saying that. So appreciate it. Thank you. No, the last thing I would say is, I think this is a great forum. I've seen a couple of the other conversations that have taken place, and I mean, I think these are great activities to keep, alumni involved and see what's going on in K-State and hear about your experience, since you went to K-State a few years after I did, and just to find out what's currently happening on campus, but also to hear from current Black students that maybe some of our experiences are not that different. So maybe it makes people like me who have kind of tuned out, from K-State and maybe moved on to think that, hey, you need to be looking back. The Sankofa bird means you should always look back. That's one of BSU's big symbols. Maybe something I have forgotten and maybe other alumni have forgotten as well. So just hearing that y'all are going through some of the same things that we did, maybe will help some of us get more active back on campus and see what we can do to help. So thanks for hosting this discussion. It was really good.
100%. And thank you for agreeing to come on. I'm sure a lot of people would appreciate you know, the things that we talked about. I knew if I saw this coming in or listened to this coming in as a transfer student and hearing two Black gay men talk about, you know, their experience in the organization that I'm giving or gave my blood, sweat, and tears for, that just validates, you know, all the hard work that I've done, all the love, all of the, you know, things that organizations have given me.
Yeah.
And I know how much that means to me, and I hope it means so much to other people. So thank you for just giving yourself and giving your time. And
Anytime.
we all really appreciate it. And
Well,
yeah,
thanks.
have a good one.
Okay, you too. Thanks everybody for tuning in.
Yeah.
All right.
Thank y'all. Bye.